Christmas has gone, and New Year soon done. The time is fast a-coming to open the door and clear the floor to welcome boys a mumming. By music bidden, identities hidden, declaiming their age-old lines to praise St. George felled by the sword of Perfidious Paradine. The two fabled knights are scripted to fight, boasting of courage and skill, but their ambition and lust the scribe can adjust with one little stroke of his quill. Though brave was he, indubitably, and many's the wrong he did right, each time St. George fought his service was bought with specie glittering and bright. Prince Paradine, that noble scion, fought neither for gain or no reward, but repressing the poor would cause him to draw his keen and vengeful sword. In comes I, a noble knight, Prince Paradine's my name, with sword and buckler by my side, I hoped to win more than fame. But 'twas not meant to be, for St. George he prevailed in a right tight night fight. Forced down to yield, before the saint kneeled, Paradine was shamed and contrite. A champion's life is full of strife, battling Lucifer's spawn. The next evildoer you cross might skewer you, and grind up your bones to make corn. But there is one perk of this dangerous work that balances all the danger, and renders worthwhile the stress and toil, the comfort of a stranger. For when the hero has felled the foul foe, it's not just his esteem that rises. The heat of his blood and his fame as a stud are added to pecuniary prizes. While George the Saint showed no restraint and played the wanton debaucher, Prince Paradine had a different design, wooing the King of Egypt's daughter. This noble child, chaste and mild, was the paragon of all virtues, tolerant and loyal, quite bright for a royal, a right proper goody two-shoes. The good princess was doubly blessed with grace and poise and beauty. All did concur in the vernacular. She was a right little cutie. If the daughter of a king was taught just one thing, that a maiden who held royal station should be discreet in those she'd meet, to preserve her reputation. I regret to say that when, one day, after receiving a note and a flower, she went all alone, without chaperone, to a shady, secluded bower. She usually dismissed anonymous tryst, and offers from strangers decline. But she earnestly desired her secret admirer. This time was the shy Paradine. So, imagine her dread when she found instead George waiting patiently. And it stuck out a mile with his lecherous smile. His intentions were not at all saintly. "Come hither," said he, "and sit on my knee, and appreciate nature's variety." "No, no," said she, "what you ask of me would constitute gross impropriety." But I've done the right thing, and spoke to the king, and told him a foul dragon I'd fought. He promised your hand and about 10 grand when I bring the dead reptile to court. Your suit is spurned, for I have learned your motives lack honour and restraint, and it's odd that a yob who kills for a job was canonised as a saint. She turned and was gone, and left all alone the crestfallen saint who would court her. "But George," he cried, "I'll tame the pride of the King of Egypt's daughter." Many the beasts, nowadays deceased, were thriving till man learned to shoot. Some were vicious, and others delicious, and some made a great pair of boots. Aware at least were some of the beasts that Darwin had proved they'd evolved, and had made different species to fill different niches no creationist design had involved. Dragons were still abundant, until men decided all dragons were malign. Bounties were paid for each one that was slayed, which hastened their rapid decline. To be totally fair, it's true that there were dragons that breathed fire and were scaly. They stole people's treasure and, just for good measure, devoured a virgin daily. There were other types too of dragon who were peaceful and wise and good-hearted, who didn't speak Welsh, or singe with a belch, or torch your whole house when they farted. Being Egypt's princess is not without stress, left seldom to do what you like. When life is too taxing, her way of relaxing is to head to the hills for a hike. One crisp autumn morn she set off at dawn with food and first aid in her bag on. Entering a dell, she stumbled and fell on what seemed to be a dead dragon. Showing no fear, the princess drew near and examined the poor wounded creature. It was starving and weak. Prognosis was bleak, with sword cuts a prominent feature. It opened its eyes and tried to arise and scorch the enemy hostile. But such was the damage, the best it could manage was a couple of sparks from each nostril. The princess did her best the wounds to dress, and she gave it her food and water. She fashioned a hide where the dragon could bide, nursed by the king of Egypt's daughter. 'Twas clear to the maid, the wounds from a blade, by a knight who had left it for dead. Somehow it got clear of sword, mace and spear, with life hanging on by a thread. The dragon it mended. Each day was tended with the princess's healing balm. Soon she could tell it was sufficiently well to seek sanctuary, safe from harm. But fortune's bent wheel and fate's crooked deal drop into God's laps where they stay. When chance the die casts, good luck never lasts, and odds narrow with each passing day. Thus our characters four cannot ignore the role of fate in their story, knowing some thrive and some won't survive, and one will claim all the glory. St. George was still peeved how his suit was received, and swore that he'd make the girl pay. He started stalking when she went out walking. Ooh, a little bit creepy, I'd say. One dawn's early light, the watchful knight saw the princess leave the castle, with a bag on her back, a great bulging sack full of bones, raw meat and gristle. A curious load for one taking the road, whose veganism oft was expressed. Dripping blood, guts and gore from the bag to the floor, she smelled like a slaughterman's vest. So George tagged along, the odour so strong it led to the dragon's retreat. In there he caught her, the king's only daughter, feeding a dragon raw meat. St. George's blood boiled. Would he be embroiled in joining this nightmare feast? His charger for starter, roast knight for a maid, and virgin and custard last. For knightly endeavour you need not be clever, and seeing the reptile and maid, he fears the beast's bent is of homicidal intent, and instantly draws his sharp sword. "Princess, take care and stand over there. I'll save you from death by grilling." Then he sliced the gizzard of the unlucky lizard and chalked up yet another killing. Many verses have passed since we saw the last of well-meaning Prince Paradine. It's time he discovered his fickle beloved. No longer is he her Valentine. The prince comes at last, his eye quickly casts o'er the faces of his rival and belle. Even to him, courageous but dim, it's clear this wouldn't go well. "Princess, is your will my ardour to kill by throwing yourself at the saint? Because I assure you such behaviour I view as lacking decorous restraint." "Sorry, prince," says the lass, "you're not in the same class. as the saint here, who just saved my skin. He's acquired an order of musky bravura and a big wad of cash from the king. So again, one more time, the good Paradine is thwarted by Albion's hero. Each year it's the same. St. George gets a claim and the Prince Paradine gets 0. So Paradine joins the cast as they parade off at last. The play's over and done for this year. And if he wants a bigger part or to win the maid's heart, he can start by getting me a beer.